Okay, so after you finish your first two code alongs and for the normal next due date for the week, you'll have two items for checkpoints. So what we're doing here is we're saying, okay, now that you've been exposed to some JavaScript through variables, operators, and basic page interaction, we're going to have a checkpoint where we actually going to use AI. Now, we're not going to use AI directly. We're actually going to use it through an app that has been created here at Fresno City College by myself, Rick Gomez, and Brianna, who is our tutor. And so you're going to interact with the content that was covered here, and then it'll submit into Canvas. Okay. Now this product is developed by a small development team. We really attempt, and you're going to see the latest version. If you've taken my other classes, you're going to see that this is going to look different. And my hope is that it actually operates different and more consistently. But if you know anything about software development, it's a challenge. Okay, so I'm going to actually go to another tab only because of the way I have to submit it. Now I'm in the tool right now. Okay, so this is your checkpoint. And what we're going to do here is we're going to test your skills and your knowledge. Okay, now the idea here is that we're taking all that content that you've already covered and we're going to give you an AI interaction that is going to ask you questions and then have you actually code things. Okay, now, I will show you my suggestions on how you actually code things, but let's go over the do's and don'ts, okay? And notice when I've just come in here, it's asking me to actually, as a matter of fact, I'm going to change this to view it as a student. That way it's the way you see it, okay? So what are the do's? Well, commit to the SIT. And what that means is once you start the submission, then you have to complete it, right? Now, I do give you a timer, and you'll see this, and this is one of the new features. I've noticed from past data, most students take between 25 and 35 minutes to complete, so this should be more than enough time. If you're actually getting close to the end, you may have to get through, but reach out to me if you find that that's happening, and maybe we can figure out how to extend it. But for now, I think this should be good. Now, you have to actually submit the assignment. And then what this means is when you open it, if for some reason you refresh the screen, it actually restarts the interaction. And you don't want to do that. You want to get all the way to the submit assignment so that because if you don't get there and you refresh, it's like Canvas never saw that it happened. All right. Now, the other thing about this is if you start a submission and abandon it, right? And this is what I say down here is don't start it and then abandon it. I actually see it on the back end. And if you're having technical issues, please reach out. That's definitely important. But if I see you continuously trying attempt, that basically means you're going in to look at it and then come back. The idea is actually for you to practice. So, take this multiple times to improve your score. Now, don't use any of the Gen AI tools, and here's why. This is actually technical interview practice. In a real job interview or in your actual tech interview, you won't have an AI assistant, okay? So build your raw coding skills now. Okay, so that just goes over this. Now, we're actually going to get ready to start the submission. I'll show you what this looks like. And notice here where it says load. So we're actually going to load this. It'll load it in a new window. Okay, so here we are in that new window. And then, and actually, because I was in here a minute ago playing around, mine has already started here. And then I'm going to go ahead and click Start Submission. And so now it got, because what happens here is when you click these things, there's prompts that we've written that get sent to the LLM. None of your private data gets sent over to the LLM. I can tell you that. If you want proof, I'd be happy to show you. But here's what it is. This shows you your current step, and this shows you, or this is your interface to go to the next step, and here's where you type your answer, okay? So in this case, got it, and it says, well, when you're ready, click step 1. So we go ahead and click, Q1. Okay, so when we click Q1, then we get our first question, okay? So, and then it's going to give you a question, and then you're going to write the answer here. Variables, and this is not the right answer. Variables are important, okay? And I want you to see that if you attempted, it's true, but it's actually, could you recall which, and it'll give you so this is the idea. It's like if you're not sure of my variable rule in this case, right? Now, could you go look at the notes or you could go look at your code? You could, but remember the idea here is to see how well you've retained it, and then you could always take it again, or you could actually attempt it again. When you get it successful, it'll say, okay, move on to Q2. So notice how the interface changes here. Again, we have a timer, okay? So I'm actually not going to go through them all, but I am going to show you the last coding one. So I'm going to pause for just a second here. Okay, so I'm in the last one, and so starting, like I said, so there are 5 coding challenges. So now what I did is I clicked through, which is not what you're going to do, okay? You'll write code in here. Now, if you wanted to write multiple lines, which by the way, for this one you don't, you could hit Shift Enter, but the idea here is that you just, like on this last one, you're going to write, right? And now, by the way, this is not the right answer as well, but you'll write function, right? So I'm giving you the general outline, and then you could do, right, and so this is where you've learned how to write functions, so you could write it on one line. Now, if I did Shift Enter, right, and here, you could do that as well. It's just sometimes it can get a little confusing. Now, it doesn't matter, but in this case, I would say try to do it on one line to have it ready. Okay, now, in this case, let's just hit Enter and see what it does, right? It's like, okay, right. So good. So it's actually giving, you want to give it another try. That's awesome. So once you get it correct, it'll say move to the last one. So in this case, we've actually moved all the way through. Okay. And so now we're on feedback. And this part is really important to understand how it functions. I've actually reported to our team today a little quirk I'll show you, but I'm going to go ahead and hit feedback. Now, feedback is actually where it goes over, right? Here's what we've learned, right? Rio will review and score. So this is important. The AI does not score it. I actually have a prompt series that reviews it, and then I review that and then determine a score. I do not let AI grade your work. It's not what I do, but I do use it to give you better feedback. Okay. Now, here comes the part I was talking about where the importance of submit. So if you, for some reason, and I'm going to check the time again, had not done this step, it doesn't get submitted into Canvas. And that's what I want you to really understand, is that you have to do this, but I want you to see how it happens, okay? Because now I'm at the very end, I hit the submit, and now I got the submit assignment. So when I click submit assignment, it says submitting. You'll get this little pop-up, but what will happen is it'll say it's submitted over here, but until this little pop-up goes away, it's actually not submitted. But once that little thing goes away, then has been submitted, and now you can just close this, because you no longer, whatever your work was, it was already submitted. You can't any longer interact here. So I'm going to close this, and just for purposes to help you see what it looks like. Again, this is a different course, don't worry about it. But what happens, I'm going to go ahead and leave the student view so you can see what I see. You could go to your grades and look at it, but what will happen here is that whole conversation gets submitted into Canvas. Now, in this case, I did what I don't recommend doing, but I just want you to see that's what it will do. And then if you have multiple submissions, I will only grade the last one. Okay. All right. So that's your first AI checkpoint. Hopefully you heard me with all the do's and don'ts. Please reach out if you have any questions. Make sure you've paid attention to this video to have a good experience. If you run into anything technical, please reach out as soon as possible, because we have tested this, but until we actually have more and more students using it, we may run into some issues. I hope not, but the nature of software development is sometimes you do. All right, now it's time to move on to your last checkpoint, which is where you code. All right, talk to you later.